We are now live.
We're live. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And you're in your cowboy hat. I love it.
Well, it was just the drama. I was just getting the suspense going on which hat I'm going to be wearing. So thank you for joining. Appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations through texts and stories and things like that. So how about kind of explain who you are, what you're about, and yeah.
The proverbial, who are you? What are you about? Explain it in 10 words or less.
Yes.
Impossible. Because, we've done video chats together and I'm
Yeah.
pretty dang effusive. That's an interesting question. What am I about? Well, the obnoxious answer would be about 5'4", but man, that's to distill that. I mean, seriously, John, distilling who am I and what am I about? I'm an author. I've been an author professionally since I was 14.
Wow.
I was really, really lucky, and we've discussed from that amazing article you wrote about me, which you totally got me, that, I was in entertainment for many years on camera, on stage, and behind the scenes as a producer. I've written tons of stuff, television, music, stage plays, being in compilations and anthologies and print articles and digital articles. And I have 3 books that came out, have come out since 2021. It's where my heart truly, truly lies. The other aspect of it is I have been for 24 years a master meditation teacher and a Reiki master teacher and a Qigong teacher and working a lot with intuition and us aligning ourselves with what we radiate, because
Right.
that is how we attract, by what we radiate. And I had been away from social media for about 7 years.
Mhm.
And then 2 years, and 2 years ago, I had some colleagues and friends say, "Hey, you need to be on social media." So I bit, and I don't want to say we've had a love-hate relationship, but I still don't get it in a lot of respects. And I felt I needed to kind of morph myself into what social media was demanding,
Yeah.
requesting, asking us to be,
Mhm.
and that whole niche thing. And I'm kind of unnicheable. So I wandered away from this love of the healing arts. I want to use the umbrella healing arts. So is that my niche? I don't know. I kind of had some diversions and some pivots and some detours, but in the last 10 weeks, I realized that's where my heart is, where I'm most content, where I'm so in the pocket. So I'm back to the future, as it were, and writing and back full force in the healing arts. So that is a long story long for you.
Right.
Now, your turn.
Okay. So I've been writing all my life, but not really professionally. I kind of stumbled into this world. Well, I didn't really stumble into this world. I really took. I think the pandemic kind of like opened up a lot of my world, and it gets lonely when you're by yourself. And as you go through the healing process, you learn about who you are, what you're about. And a lot of times you're resorting to probably talking to yourself a lot more because you don't have any interactions. Um, but, writing and things like that. I was off social media for a while there too, but I was
Mhm.
on and off. Um, but writing really took off during the pandemic. Wrote my first book, which is not really my first book. I've kind of like created a story, but my early work is not my favorite stuff. I think my newest stuff is probably more my voice, my expressions of who I am, and it really talks about my stories more. Um, Back then, I was kind of using more of I was kinda, like, creating stories, but not really stories. I mean, they were meaningful stories, don't get me wrong, and they're probably helpful, but I plan on going back and rewriting all that at some point
Mm,
into my current voice, my current way of writing, my current way of doing things, because I think they're important stories, but just need to be told differently. So, um, I'm kinda jumping into this world more and more, self-published. Uh,
mm.
I
That's
play around.
hard.
Yeah, I
That's
play around.
hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm editing this book called Earned, Not Given, which has been taking a lot of my time. And this past weekend, we I had to help the community in fundraisings, or so I was kind of like spent the whole weekend. My voice is a little sore, so
Mm.
and I'm like, so I didn't really do much of my book, but I got to get back on that. I'm like halfway through, but it's pretty cool. It's an interesting journey because most of my books go online first, and I try
Uh-uh.
to give everybody a draft of what the premise would be, and then I go back afterwards, and I kinda go through the editing process, and I start editing content, and then that's the way how I write, and then now I'm kinda going back and putting adding so I went from, like, 20,000 to, like, 35,000 words.
Oh, okay.
Mm. So,
That's a huge achievement.
yeah. I mean, long term, I'd love to do this full time. This is something I really enjoy, but
Mhm.
obviously, I gotta put bread on the table first before that, so, yeah. But, yeah, this is where I'm it was interesting, how sometimes, I spent all my lifetime to run away from this.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you kinda, like, divert yourself, you try to but
Yeah.
somehow or another, it always brings you back to this. Now, it wasn't quite like I always said if I'm gonna write I always wanna write a book, ever since I was young, but I didn't know how, and plus, the way I was raised didn't really allow me. Uh, uh
Mm.
And the way I was being taught, the way and I had a learning disability too, so, like,
Mm.
dyslexia. So that
Oh.
kinda, like, put me back. So excuse me. So that kinda, like, put a lot of issues. So I've always never so I steer away from it, but then I guess go back to 2020, that's when really just everything came forefront, and that's where yeah, so I know
I'm
it's
sorry, I'm looking off to the side. I have as I said to you before we got started, it decided to open up and have a deluge, and I hear a lot of thunder, so if anyone hears thunder, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not me, it's Mother Nature.
So I've been diving into the, more of some of the pains that I've been posting a lot of those
Mhm.
videos and
Mhm.
kinda, like, sharing more of the stories, and I haven't really shared a lot of that, but earned, not given's a part of that, but you and I were talking about that too,
Mhm.
and, one of the things that I notice is co-parenting and
Mm. Mm.
divorce
Yeah,
and co-parenting,
been
is
there.
that you learn things after they're done. And you get slapped around a little bit, and you're like, "Oh, why?" So,
It's better than not learning at all,
yeah, well,
right?
it costs money in this situation, and, costs a lot of money and a lot of pain, and, when I look back, some of my wishes, if I could go back, is spend more time with my kids and less fighting,
Mm.
and that's
Mm.
probably the hardest things that I had to learn. So you've had some experience as well. So that's why thought, well, maybe we should
Yeah,
talk about
yeah, I
this a little bit
mean,
more.
do I know? I only know a few people that have not been involved in a divorce. Most of them never married at all. And some of them without children, but
Mm,
it's never easy. It's never ever easy. And you think about I've read a bunch of articles about you think about how two people who once loved each other or said they loved each other, how for whatever reason in whatever circumstance it could become so ugly. And I never ever wanted that or would want that for myself or anyone else. So If going back to a few things you said about your dyslexia, and I know whomever is watching, there may be somebody watching who is dealing with that, or who might see this video later on. And divorce. Is it 55% of marriages these days? I don't know. I've lost track. And then divorced with children. For me, it's just a whole other ball game because I was married prior to that
Yeah.
relationship and there were no children involved.
Mm.
So although it was difficult, uh, it made it easier. I feel, I mean, he and I are friends to this
Right.
day. That had to evolve, but we are friends and we talk about things on the occasion. I I think it made it easier. Just cut it in half and go your separate ways. But yeah, with children, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, so
Um,
I think you're right about that. One of the things that I learned, obviously relationships are easy when you don't have kids involved. You
mm,
can always break up and move on. And obviously, as you experience,
easier. I know there'll be
yeah.
people. Sorry to interject. There'll be people out there who are saying, "Wait a minute now, it wasn't easy."
Well, I'm not saying it
Just
isn't.
because. No, I just
No.
don't want anybody to like write you a nasty message saying, "John, it was still hard getting divorced with no
Well,
kids." We get that,
yeah.
right? We totally
No,
get
I
that.
totally get that. Yeah, so, like, in some divorces, there's a reason why you divorce. Somebody might be abusive or an alcoholic or whatever the case, like, something there's a reason why you got married, and there's a reason why you got divorced, and somewhere in the middle, there's always the truth. And sometimes it's hard to look at ourselves and say, "That is the truth," you know?
Mm,
Um, but what I'm saying is it's not easy. It obviously, divorce is something getting married is hard enough, like, you've actually committed to somebody and you said, "Okay, this is what I want." And then it's also hard to divorce that person because you built some type of legacy with that person, you built some type of relationship, and now you gotta separate assets, there's a bunch of stuff that goes on with that, and it's not an easy road down that path. My my situation is when you're divorced, you could basically cut ties, block them, and then you'll never have to hear from ever again if you
mm,
choose to. In the kid situation, you don't really have that choice
no.
because, when I was in this world, I was doing or when I was in custody, I had 50-50. Actually, I fought to get 50. I didn't wanna get erased anymore, and that's what was
Mm,
happening all the time, and she
mm,
was always inserting someone else involved.
mm,
And it kinda pushed me away, but I also was very, you're dealing with divorce. My family lives 3,000 miles away. I was by
mm,
myself. I was struggling to figure out what I needed to do. So, as I was going through the process, I was also raising 3 kids on my own on my days, and she had the family home. There was a lot more involved, but as you're trying to pull the onion apart and trying to sort the assets, you're also dealing with custody. It Some cases, I looked at some relationships where people broke off and they had a great relationship on co-parenting
yeah.
because their values aligned. The problem when you're divorced, you usually are not aligned for a lot of things, and one of the things is parenting. So
Mm,
mine was a little more accountability, responsibility, and a lot more of that type of world, which backfired on me big time
mm,
because she was more of the friend, and she would use that angle all the time, and she would do all um, the things that would encourage the kids to be, like, more of a friend than a thing, which is, as we all know, that is also a failed situation. That's not a good parenting because 'cause you'll see ramifications down the road, and in fact, that's what we're seeing now with my children.
mm,
There's psychological issues, there's trust, there's no trust with the parents. Uh,
mm.
there is you could building relationships with them is gonna be long and probably harder than ever.
Arduous task. Well,
Yeah.
that's where to interject. I mean, this is called Stories, Soulwork, and Substack, and I think that's where we get to these are stories, but that's where we get to the soul work. And one of my huge mandates and my mantra is, where can I find that kernel? Where can I find that little gold leaf? Where can I find that, piece of platinum or titanium? Not saying a silver lining or being
Yeah.
Pollyanna about it or anything, but in every situation that I've had, whether it was in um, previous relationships or with my child or friendships, family members, whatever, it might not be a week, a month, or even a year down the line. It could be 5 years, it could be 10, but always something turned around. And I saw this incredible nugget of how I managed it, how I just what I wasn't seeing red. I was really fortunate that I ended up becoming a Canadian citizen because of my son's father.
Right.
Um, we produced television together,
Mm.
and I don't think I would have done that without him. Was a great go-getter,
Yeah.
and, I lived in Canada, and I absolutely I'm Canadian American, and I love Canada, so
Right.
when you're out of the whole muck and mire, what does that look like? And I don't know if you're still kind of out of the muck, but still in the mire, or you're coming out of it, or where you are in that whole evolution of this
Right.
situation.
So right now I'm out of it. Like, for example, child support ended in August. Um, and that was a heavy cost for me.
Mm,
But, you know, there was a lot of things going on with that. But I'm out of
mhm,
it. Like I don't go so when I go digging back, I'm not looking at anger. I'm looking at it as like, um, I wish I'd done better in that situation, or I wish
mhm,
I looked at this differently. And that's where those nuggets, as you call them, is like, okay, I can share this to the world and say, look, there is a better way than you're doing. Like our society is all about cost at all win, like win at all cost. Sorry. Win at all costs. And that means that every argument, every conversation, every situation, you have to win, 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 win. And I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with somebody today and it didn't go the way I expected, but the conversation was me having a conversation and he was trying to convince me. And I was like,
mm,
your expectation in this conversation is two folds. One, you're expecting me to be confrontational. Two, you're expecting me to be this, and I'm not. I'm trying to have a conversation. So we can't have this conversation anymore. So in that conversation, he was trying to win at all costs, no matter what he dirtied the conversation. So it's
mm,
and I think that's what happens on social media. That's what happen with our family. That's what happens with our children. We 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 put out this energy of like it's me, 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 and that's where these nuggets are going. Well, no, you can't be you in these situations. You have to think about it as a holistic point of view. Is how like I saw my kids being raised by two different sets of values.
mm. Well, and then you have, what you're talking about with this previous conversation you had today. It doesn't sound like it was a dialogue. It
No,
sounds more like it was a monologue, and I think that's where we have to get our egos out of the way. We have to be willing to hear, not only listen to the other person, but hear the other person. He may have had something to say that was valid, but the win at all costs muddied that.
right.
And you're attempting to have this dialogue, civil discourse with
Yeah.
him, and it's making it difficult because it's putting you on the offensive instead of the both of you being on level playing fields and getting your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions
Mhm.
um, on the record, as it were. But there was this conflict, there was this disconnect,
Right.
and I find those conversations really,
Hard.
really hard because I am all about let's find uh, one place we can talk. Let's find that one place. And if you can't find that one place, then the conversation is pretty doomed. Um, and I hear that from a lot of people. We cannot find any common ground. We can't find one topic that we can discuss that even if we're not exactly in alignment, we can still have that conversation.
Right.
And I have been having to let go, I mean, really heartbreakingly, of people because they're not, woo, that was a good one. They're not willing to either, let's meet halfway. Can we just agree to meet halfway? Nope. No way. We're not going to do that. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. That's not who I endeavor to be. Does everybody, I don't care who they are, dig their heels in on some topic or subject at some point? Sure. But I'm
Well, not on every single
but
subject.
not on every single subject. So if you are in this circumstance where you've got roadblock, 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 then I mean, what did you do? Did you just say, "Look, this isn't working,"
Right.
or "I really honor what you're saying. It's not in we have no cohesion right now, and I think that the best thing would be is for us to just, end this conversation and maybe we can pick it up at another time." Optimum word being maybe, because sometimes you can and sometimes you cannot. And that's the other thing, learning and discerning that difference. Because I've been able to pick up conversations after misunderstandings,
Yeah.
after someone was in that, what I call halt, hungry,
Yeah.
angry, lonely, tired situation. And I'm like, let's halt this right now and let's come back to it at a later date when we've had
Right.
rest, when we've had food, when we are, because I would like to be here so you don't feel lonely, the L. But I'm not sure I can do anything about the hungry, angry, or, or tired part.
No, sometimes it's hard to, I mean, certain conversations are easy to have because you're both aligned on whatever that looks like, whatever
Right.
your values and all that. Um, but when you have an off situation, and it could be in every single relationship, what happens is we get stuck in our little world, and it happens all the time. It's not a perfect situation, but what happens is in that when so the conversation ended is like, we're gonna agree to disagree. And it's not best to continue this conversation because it's not gonna go anywhere. You're obviously, in that conversation, that person says, "Well, you're not listening to me." Well, I said, "Well, let me understand what you're saying. You said this, and this, and this. Is that right?" "Well, yeah, but that's not quite what you understand." "Okay, well, then tell me what you understand," and just regurgitated the same thing.
Mm,
And that really happens in a lot of our situations where someone's arguing the sake of arguing rather than just saying, you know what? They might have a position here. I mean, like, I use this, and I don't mean this to be diminishing, but I believe there's like three levels of conscience.
okay.
There's a low level, which is always a victimhood conscience, which is the lowest. And I don't mean this to be level. I'm just talking about what I see. And I think there might be the fourth one.
Mm,
And then there's an ego, which is a conscience of ego where you just dominate. And what happens is you're always battling with the victim and ego. You're always going back and forth. And it depends on, and that's where you play with the majority of your life. As a child, you always play this ego victim. Parents play that. And then there's like this, I wouldn't say like an awakening moment where you start to realize that playing the ego and playing the victim is not good for you health wise and life and spiritual.
hmm
And I think there's also a higher level of conscience where it's just more of like a higher calling, but that's like reserved to like Buddhism and those like Jesus and people like that, where if you really or a saint or so, if you're really walking those at that level, then everything below is not a problem because you just realize that. And one of the things you say to yourself is that no matter what happens to you, everything is meant to be good for you, bad or
Mm,
good. And that's when you start realizing that life is more than just these little arguments and these conversations and all this pull back forth.
mhm,
And that's where I think you see that in every single relationship where you see those type of players. And I think not everyone strives to have that conscious level of up here. They're stuck in their little ways, and that's the way it is. And it's playing a box game where everybody plays in a box. And if you get outside that box, you get punished, you know? And if you play in that box, you're always playing small. You're not playing in a bigger value. So, but when people actually elevate their consciousness of who they are, what they're about, and find that inner spirit, like most of us start to realize who we are, then that box breaks open. And I think a lot of people play in that box because they're afraid to open it. And
mm,
one of the things I wish I one of the things I came across, somebody, I can't remember who it was, who said, "Learn your why fast. The quicker you learn your why, the quicker you are on your journey of a higher purpose."
mm. Interesting. Well, 2 things, hopefully I can remember the 2 things. First, you said with the conversation with the other person, you did get to a point of agree to disagree because that is at least that is one level. I mean, I've said people have said to me, "Oh, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back," and I'm like, "You're still 1 step ahead."
Yeah,
So, if because it's not always the case, even in a situation like that, that you can get to an agree to disagree point
right.
at all. It just becomes a complete, disconnected mess, and you just have to cut it off and say, "We are just not on the same
Well,
wavelength right now."
I said, I said, "We're gonna agree to disagree," and the other person wasn't happy with that solution, so it didn't really matter.
No,
I had to
mm.
put it out and moved on, so
Oh,
it
okay.
wasn't a very it wasn't a very easy it was talking about it actually was talking about leadership and
Oh,
communication,
okay.
and my thing to that person was, "You're exhibiting a lot of," so the situation was, I wanna get too deep into it, but, yeah,
Oh,
there
why
was
not? That's why people are here.
it was a situation where he needed to his influence wasn't good, and he wasn't a strong leader. So what happened
Mm,
was he was with 5 or 6 people around, and I was doing something completely different that was more
mm,
focused on a different area of the business per se.
mm,
And he kept coming to me and pulling me into his issues because he couldn't resolve it himself, so he kept pulling
mm,
me in. And the 4th time I said, "Well, if I'm not able to do this, are you gonna do it?" And the answer was no. And I said, "Then
mm.
why you keep pulling me in there? You are a leader. You need to exhibit leadership. You
And
need to
be
learn
solution
and be
oriented.
solution
Yeah.
oriented.
Mhm.
And if you can't do that, then step away and let someone else handle it."
Mm,
And
mm,
his argument was, well, he was being influential. And I said, "Honestly, you're not." I said, "The concern that I would have with you is as you move up the ladder in this corporation, how are you gonna lead when you're not gonna if you're saying you can't influence anybody?" Like you did people put things out there and then they're living that prophecy. Like, "I
mm,
can't do that because of why? I'm not a leader because I can't influence somebody. So I'm gonna quit." And so my response is, well, okay, you don't have any solutions because you don't want to create any solutions. You exhibit you can't influence anybody because you don't want to influence anybody. And you keep saying you're gonna quit. So then why would I trust you? Why would I would even come to you? And how can I help you when you're already halfway out the door?
And the interesting thing is that we are influencing people all the time, consciously or unconsciously. We influence the person who is at the cash register at a store. Um, we're just radiating influence all the time. And in terms of, you were talking about consciousness, um, when you're not ready
Mhm.
to, or you don't think you're struggling, or you don't think you've got these consciousness challenges, and you're just out there living your life, until but you're still getting negative interactions
Right.
and reactions, until such time that you are ready and you're able to look at yourself. The hardest thing for anyone to do, and I'm sure people have heard this before, is to look at themselves in the mirror
Mhm.
and say, yeah, I have this drawback in my personality. I have this idiosyncrasy that's not just quirky and funny and interesting and unusual. It's actually detrimental to me or detrimental to others. That is so hard. And that takes me to, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono prayer. And okay, the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono prayer, and this is the hardest thing people do, is you can do this with a partner, but you also can do this with yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I love you. I'm
Oh.
sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And try to do that facing a partner. If you've had a child, a partner, a friend
Right.
you've had a disagreement, you're not seeing eye to eye. It's so hard and you're so vulnerable. And saying that to yourself is so vulnerable. So we're talking about him not realizing the influence he does have, and then also not ready to have a different kind of consciousness. So that's
Yeah.
a twofold thing, and then you ended up
Yeah.
flashing over that because you are trying, which is obvious with your writing, with your videos, with, you're trying to raise your consciousness.
Right.
You're trying to have those dialogues, those agree to disagree. And I see 100% of people don't agree with what you said, but because of a lot of the people that are on Substack, our third subject today, that they are willing to have this dialogue. They're willing to have this, John, I love what you said here, here, and here, but here, that didn't
Yeah.
hit me. That didn't really hit me. That didn't hit home with me.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's okay. That's cool. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But still you have this, confluence, as it were, on those 3 points, maybe not the fourth one, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I think that's well, when you put your work out there, you're definitely gonna get criticized.
oh yeah.
Yeah, you just said, "Here's the target, go ahead and hit me." But
Yeah, and
I
especially
learned
when you're so topic oriented, a
yeah.
lot of stuff I put out is my already published
Mhm.
poetry that, just say excerpts from one of my 3
Right.
books. It's already published, and for me, and I think we've discussed this, when I was an actor and a dancer and a singer, I was constantly, checking myself. I was much more nervous about all of that, about how people were going to perceive me and how they were going to judge me than I am with my writing.
Right.
And I write it. A lot of my best stuff comes to me very, very quickly. I edit it, I put it out there, and I let it go. I don't babysit it. I don't reread it. I just let it go with um, confidence that it lands where it needs to land. If it doesn't land with you, it might land with someone else, or somewhere else. Um, if it lands with 100 people but doesn't land with two, those two people aren't going to ruin it for me that it did land with 100 people.
Right.
But then that goes to the whole topic of, you get all this praise and you get a little bit of criticism. The praise is supposed to be elevation, and the criticism is supposed to be uh, uh, uh,
Lifting.
uh, well, the criticism it weighs you down. I know people, and I myself in the past, 100 people would say, "Oh, I love that. That was great," and one person would say something, and it would just ruin the other 100 people that said
Oh,
something.
yeah. Yeah.
And that doesn't happen for me anymore. Since I'm a Buddhist practitioner, I try not to be attached. It's great if it hits with someone. I'm thrilled it worked for them, but I am not going to elevate that and then let the negativity weigh me down. I try to have more of a neutrality. Thank you for what it did for you, and thank you for responding. But I've also said thank you for responding to people who have said something crappy to me. I'm like, well, thanks for reading. Thanks for
Yeah.
responding. Thanks for watching, because you read the whole thing and you watched the whole thing and you
Right.
still took time to comment negatively. Okay, I'm cool with that. You know?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know if criticism, like when I write, I mean, I think probably first I was more concerned about I was very conscious of I was really nervous about my writing.
Mm,
And then I think writing, like I write like almost 7 days a week. And I post I'm scheduled out. Now I gotta catch up a little bit here, um, but I write constantly. I'll write 3 or 4 stories a week, and then I'll post them in their future stories. And then sometimes I totally forget about them.
right. Oh, yeah. I've got a whole compendium of stuff that's sitting
Yeah,
in notes, on little pieces of paper,
right.
on my phone, on my computer, on my pad, my tablet. There's
Right.
just, I don't know if you're like this, but a few words or a phrase
Yes.
or one sentence that I was driving and I got this, what I consider to be a brilliant idea,
Yes.
and I had to get it down. So I'm in my car, not, using Siri. Siri, take this down right now before I forget it, because I will forget it, because I have an effusive, very busy mind. So it will be
Yeah,
replaced by something else.
so I use notes on my phone. I have an iPhone, so I use notes, and I'll say something, like, I'll put that on and I'll write it out there, or I'll just speak it in. And then I look at it next day or something like that, or a couple hours, or I go, "Okay, I'm gonna fix this up." So, like, you'll see, like, a picture and maybe a comment that I'll make.
Yes.
Those are really just me just coming up with ideas and just
Kind of
spitballing them out.
just
Yeah.
channeling it. Yep, yep, yep.
And it's
Mhm.
always like 3 or 4 sentence, because I just don't wanna write and then someone says, "Well, it's very poetry." And I was like, "Well, it's not really poet. You kinda need, like, you need more than just a few words."
Poetry is anything you want it to be. When I teach poets, I say, you know, look at the haiku. 3 sentences, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. Senryu, which is related to haiku, but it's different. Same thing, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, 3 lines. So powerful. I've seen one sentence of poetry that has knocked me on my butt with some sort of aha moment. And some people don't want to label themselves poets.
Yeah,
I'm a novelist. I write articles. I write fiction, nonfiction, or
right.
whatever. But um, don't label it poetry. Label it paddling up the Mississippi. I mean, who cares? Just write it.
Yeah,
Just
but
write it.
I don't really, yeah, I just write it for the sake of writing it, however someone else classifies it, I don't really doesn't really bother me. I don't really care.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's your categorizing, not me. I just call it my daily thoughts. That's how I look. That's how I think. I look at something. Oh, that's kind of like, okay, that's me just putting things down.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's sort of like me freeballing or freestyling, more or less.
Right.
It's kind of like, but I do have a few, like, I'll write something and I'll put it together, or I see a picture and I'll try to, like, oh, I kind of like that, or I may come across a song and I pick something up, and it's just really it's just something so easy for me to do, just kind of like figure it out, and then I post them. So that's one thing, but I really spent a lot of time writing stories, and
Yeah.
that's where, that's actually where a lot of my changes has happened, because 'cause I'm writing so many different subjects. I'm writing about so many different people, and it's actually taken me down so many paths, and so when I schedule out, and so when when I see the post, I'm like, "Oh, I totally forgot that I wrote that." And then and
Right? Oh,
so it's
yeah, that's
I was
good.
yeah, I should really listen
I
to that.
like that.
So then
Right, yeah. Where's it
so
been?
so I'm working out and I'm listening to the audio, I'm like, "Oh, that's really nice."
Right, and good for you because
Yeah,
I know so many talented writers, whether they are, they just post stuff from their journal or do people call it diaries these days? Is diary back?
I
I don't
don't know.
know. But they post it from a journal. They don't consider themselves professional writers. They consider themselves students of writing, or they self-publish or they're published. It doesn't matter, but they find this most brilliant they have the most brilliant abilities to express themselves.
Mm,
And I say, don't limit that and don't judge it because sometimes we are not our best critics. And again, um, what you write, every single thing I post may not land for you.
no,
Every single thing you post may not land for me, but because I love your writing so much, I like all of it because it's you as a writer. And I always want you to know I'm supporting you.
thank you. Likewise.
Um, oh, thank you. And I've only, this is the crazy story about you and me. And I don't know, I know you write about other writers, and I read all of it. How we ended up I hadn't hardly been on Substack for maybe 2 weeks, and you connected with me. And then you asked me, "May I interview you?" I'm like, "What's this guy about? I don't know." Because, I get guys saying, "Hi, how are you? Can we talk?" I'm like, So then I started reading your writing. I go, "Oh, I like this guy."
Yeah.
So you were doing we were doing the back and forth
Yeah.
for what? A few weeks.
Yeah.
And then
I said I had
we,
enough. Yeah.
we co-wrote, you said we're
Yeah.
co-writers on this. And I thought that's excellent because we've both discussed how people will take what you've said,
Yeah.
what you've written, what you've put out there and make it their own and take the credit for it. And I hope that doesn't happen to anyone out there because, and I'm sure it does. It's happened to me multiple times
Oh,
as a
yeah.
television writer, as a poet, as an article writer.
It happens.
It
It's
happens.
yeah.
You just have to be aware. But even my husband, when I gave him the final uh, article, wasn't even draft. It was locked. Said, yeah, he gets you, and it's to have someone who's only known you for 5 weeks get you, see you. And that was what I said. You saw me. And I find that to be a rare thing, uh, other than amongst people who've known me for an extended period of time,
Right.
that a veritable stranger sees me. And my husband said, because he writes like you, he has similar emotions to you.
Mm.
And he expresses himself similarly to you. You're not the same writers, you're not the same kind of writers, but he expresses similarly to you. And
Right.
that engendered trust between me and you,
Right.
for me with
Yeah.
you. And I think that's the ultimate honor that you can bestow on anyone, is saying there's trust there, because in this day and age, there's a lot of reasons not to trust people.
Well, thank you for all that. I appreciate that. But,
It's true.
I didn't really think of that way when you first said, "Well, what is this guy doing?" Right? I'm like, "Yeah, that kinda is weird."
Just out of the blue, I'm messaging her, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Yeah, that is weird." Um
Upon reflection,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I'm like, "Yeah,
but
that's
it
what it."
worked out, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah.
worked out, so in the
Yeah,
best way.
but if you saw my questions, I was honing into to who you were. If you kind of go back to that, because we did it on chat, we're kinda going back and forth, I was able to
Mhm,
ask questions,
mhm.
and through those questions and kinda get to know you, that's where I kinda like, okay, I got in the end, I said, "I think I have enough here to move forward with the story.
Mhm.
Um, and my writing is not. I don't say it's. I think my writing is more choppy. It's a lot more has a rhythm to it. People say it's more poetic. Um,
There's that word again.
yeah, more poetic, but mine's more. I think I'm because of dyslexia. That's why I do it that way.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple. You know, basically just kinda like, "Okay, here's a subject, here's the response." Just keep it boom, boom, boom. Just keep it steady that way.
Yeah.
Because I don't really have more than maybe 5 words or 6 words in a sentence, maybe a little more than that.
Mhm.
It's usually 5 or 6,
Mhm.
5 or 6, a little bit of that. And I've also noticed that's easier for readers because they're not sitting there and reading this whole paragraph that continues on. It's like, "Oh my god." I mean, I
A big, long paragraph, and you're
right,
honest too. You're transparent, and that's the one thing that, if people were to read the 3 last books that I had published,
right.
they would get to know me.
Yeah, oh, okay.
They would know me,
I did buy your
and
book.
you did, well, thank you. But yeah, people would know me by reading these 3 books because I didn't set out to I'm going to be honest. I'm going
Right,
to be transparent. I'm going to be vulnerable because that's a big buzzword now. Be vulnerable. Be vulnerable in your videos. Be vulnerable in what you write. And I don't know, I don't tell everything. I don't talk about everything, but in terms of, as you can tell, I'm pretty effusive. I'm pretty energetic. It's just who I am.
yeah,
It's too much for my husband in the morning, but, it's just who I am, and I honor the human condition, and
yeah,
I honor and respect people, and I love interacting and connection, real connection, not false bravado or this, I tell me about yourself. And when
yeah,
it's basically just a sales pitch to further whatever the other person is doing.
right.
Oops, I lost my light. But hold on just one second. And then there was no light. Uh, so wait just a second. Because I'm in the dark because there's, so much usually I'm using there we are. Usually, I'm using my, the light from my window, which is just perfect and gorgeous, but it's lightning and thundering and full of clouds. Anyway, where the heck was I before that rude interruption? Anyway, being honest and being
Yeah,
vulnerable. Um, you're like that because we have life experience. Copious amounts of life experience, and I just was um able to allow myself to say as a healing arts master teacher that I am in the echelon of an elder teacher. I mean, I've been teaching for going on 25 years.
okay,
I've been studying and practicing all these healing arts and my working with intuition and working with the law of radiation for 34 almost 35 years when I was a mere child. So it's pretty ingrained in me, you know. And but I'm sure with you, I'm like, I got all these thoughts. With you, you can spot false modesty and false vulnerability and false transparency from a mile off
mm,
just because of what you've been through. And I'm the same way. I understand that person's trying really hard
yeah,
for whatever reason. And, this goes on to number 3, Substack, getting readers, getting followers, getting subscribers. What is the most what is the thing that is attracting people most to each other? Can it be distilled down to a couple of words? Now, I don't read every single genre. Every single genre doesn't feed me. It
right,
just doesn't work for me. And it doesn't mean that every single genre isn't valid. It certainly, certainly is. But I can't imagine anyone I know who's a writer or a voracious reader is like, yeah, I like everything across the board, soup to nuts. You don't. But what's landing with whom
Right.
and how they're responding to you.
So that comes down to, so one of the things when I early write, like my first 2 books were more like, it wasn't my authentic self.
Oh, wow. What that sounds like a real awakening. We're
I
talking
mean,
about awakening
the
that you
bike
could
acts,
say that.
I could say that the bike acts, well, the COVID book, which is the best medicine I've ever had,
Mm,
um, was not authentic. I just wrote it. I kinda, like, got an editor, and I kinda like, yeah, it just kinda like, yeah, like, wasn't not my best. But I wrote it, my first book. Then I wrote the second one called The Bike Accident, even though that was me in there, but it was like I had some medical things, and, like, I was trying to do too much, if that makes sense.
mm, mm,
And then I was doing 100 stories in 100 days of inspirational stories, and I was pulling all these stories. And then through there, I started off being fluffy, and then I kinda got myself in this little wheelhouse, but then I stopped writing for a bit through on
mm.
Substack because we didn't
Right.
have notes back then. There was a couple other things that were missing. We didn't video like, none of this existed, like, 2, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, something like that. So, so I'm sitting there kinda like I had this and I was getting subscribers. Like, I wasn't even trying to get, so all my subscribers started off of, like, family and friends, Facebook,
Mm,
people
mm,
subscribing through there, so a chunk of my subscribers came from that world. And then on but then my Substack sat dormant for a while, and I started getting subscribers. I'm like, "What the heck's going on?" Like, people are subscribing to my thing, like, and I quickly realized people were recommending me, and I wasn't aware of that. And they started recommending me because of the inspirational stories. And then I was in Vancouver, and I was like,
oh,
"I
yeah.
gotta I gotta do something like this." And that's why I said, I'm gonna be journaling every single day, more or less." And I was writing this little cute little romantic book, which was not really me. It was just kinda like, I was just writing it, just see I was just practice like, I was seeing what I can do with it, right?
Mm, mm,
'Cause I had a story in my head, I wanna write, and I published it. And like I said, that was like my 3rd book, which I was kinda like, "Eh." And then Vancouver, rediscovering Vancouver, that's when I started to be more me. I wasn't playing around, I wasn't trying to be cutesy with romantic books or this or that. I started to, like, write about me, my how I was feeling at that moment during that time. So I would go to a spot and it would remind me of my childhood, or I go to, past the old home and I like, "Oh, this is where I used to play hot." Like, then I would actually write all that out and I would post it daily. And I thought, "This is really cool. This is a lot of stories within," and it became like 35 little mini stories, but it was sort of like, and then it became number 10 in Canada on Amazon of the best travel books of Vancouver. It's like top 10 for the longest time. I was like, "How did I do that?" So I was like, "Okay." So then this is when you start reflecting. You're like, "Okay, all of this stuff is just noise. This is where you need to be." And then Remy's story was one of those things I was like, Remy, we picked up Remy, we had a little bit, and I was like, we kinda cool to write about his perspective, and I wrote about his perspective, and I took the way I was writing and kinda, like, get and mold it through. And then that's when I started to see, okay, so the genesis was really rediscovering Vancouver. That's where I discovered my
mm,
writing. Remy taught me how to write in a way that would be, 'cause I wanted it, so my writing what I wanted to be more of, eh, my concern is my kids, when they start reading my books, I didn't want them to come back and say, ooh, dad wrote that. Ooh, dad wrote this. I wanted them to be I wanted a piece of me in those books where they can go back and say, "Wow, dad wrote. This is
Oh,
cool." More of a legacy thing.
right.
And then, dyslexia was more of like, the words, dancing letters.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was more of me in there, but as a perspective of childhood, because I was trying to see if I can create a series out of that and just trying to think outside the box on that. But Earned, Not Given is actually more of like a Vancouver discovery or rediscovered Vancouver. That's more of me putting my heart out. And when I was writing, when I was, and it's funny when I go on Substack, when I do collaboration writing, like you say, I do, and I do that intentionally because I want to make sure I highlight other good writers out there, and I want people to kind of get like a bio of them and what their
Mhm,
background is and what their struggles are, and kind of going through
mhm.
that. But when I write about a subject that is, we had one about, um, it was last week. I don't remember the title of it anymore, but it had to do with depression.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Mhm, I
okay,
remember that one. Uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
that kinda hit hard for me because I was dealing with it, I picked it up I picked up a concept out of Twitter, and I went, "Ooh, I didn't like how he put it out there," so I kinda like, "Well, let's really go through this," and I started kinda, like, putting things together. So, when I write stories like that versus collaborators, I get better responses on those stories than a collaborator
Interesting. That's really
because
interesting.
people want that, like, that raw, authentic story, so
Singular story, yes.
yes.
Well, first off, anyone who's lived in Vancouver like you and I have, or anyone who has visited in Vancouver, I mean, it is ripe for inspiration for writers.
Yeah,
I know another writer who writes these amazing children's books, and she lives in BC, but I think she still has a place in Vancouver. But yeah, we knew each other in Vancouver. It's
right.
just ripe for that. The other 2 things, because you're always giving me, ideas. You talked about being inauthentic with your first book, and you talked about being fluffy. Now, is that how you feel now? Or when you looked back on it earlier, you're like, "Oh, that is not my authentic voice," or that's too fluffy for what I do now." Do you still have those feelings that you were, and this is hard for anybody to admit, inauthentic in one and fluffy in another?
No, because if you look like, again, it's the realization of what a writer goes through. Like like someone said, there's a famous I can remember who said this quote, "It takes 10,000 practices to learn a perfect note."
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, so you take 10,000, so that's that. So, I look at those books as a learning curve, not because not that I'm proud of them, I'm not embarrassed by it, it's just that's who I am. And you kinda see the evolution of John Rinaldo in the writing, the author. "Oh, he wrote this, this is not really," and if they sell, they sell, I don't really care. That's why I'm kinda going back to those and think, "Okay, I gotta really, really consider how to write those out better." Because it'll be a better voice because I think now rewriting them would be better for now, because it's again, when I'm looking at, on Substack, I'm getting a lot more hits on the singulars than I do on the collaborations, and then some collaborations are kinda cool because it depends on how I do it. Now, as I move forward, I'm writing to like, I'll write about a collaborating, and then I'll write about the next day, so there'd be 2 parts. I'm kinda
Yeah,
doing
that's
that
what you
now.
did with the article with me. You put your
Yep,
own what you personally got from our conversation, which I loved that kind of wrap up because it made it in, exposing the world to this other person, you also wrapped it up and made it personal.
right.
How it affected you personally made it personal for you, which I think is quite smart. Just for your own, for your own. And, think about it. Like I said earlier, I don't reread anything I have written. I put it out there. I might post it, and as I'm cutting and pasting, or even if I retype it onto Substack or wherever, I reread it just because I had to redo it. But I don't revisit stuff because I just don't feel that any kind of criticism on my part is going to help me at all to second guess myself, or to say, oh, you should have used this word instead of that word, or, that sentence sounds so stupid and cliche. No, I'm just like, you did it, you put it out there, and it lives on its own. And I think that's the reason I'm
Yeah, I'm
able
not
to
going
not.
yeah, but I'm not going back to those books kinda like saying I did something I should have done this, done no, I'm kinda
Oh,
going back
okay.
and saying, "I can be better at that."
Oh, okay.
Like, there's a better version of that book that's not been told. That's how I'm thinking about that.
Like a total
Like a
rewrite using the
total
topic
rewrite.
or the subject? Yeah,
Total
using the
rewrite.
same
Yeah.
topic, but a total
Rewrite.
rewrite. Because I think about writers like, okay, well, Stephen King but if he ever goes back to the beginning, and says, "Wow, I am so not happy with that book, but I wouldn't rewrite it," or that is not, and we evolve. Our what that poem I wrote when I was 14 that ended up in a teen magazine,
Wow.
published and paid for. If I read it today, I'd probably puke, thinking how green I was, and how, oh my gosh,
Well, that's how I feel
you
about the
were
romantic book.
14
I feel like
years
puking on
old.
that.
Look at the crap you were writing, or I don't even recall what it was about. I think it was about some guy that I had a crush on or whatever, but the magazine thought it had merit. But I like, oh, those were my beginnings,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm never going to negate my beginnings.
Right.
As you said, I'm hoping I get better and better, but my influences, and I don't just mean other writers or other movies or television or historic figures or whatever. I'm just thinking about the life I've lived so far and the life I'm living, and what my influences are now, and how I'm living my life, and all of this energy and people, places, things that are in my realm, as it were, how they are influencing me. And I get asked all the time, "Who's your biggest influence as a writer?" And I'm like, nobody. Who do you sound like? When I was singing full time, well, who do you sound like? I'm like, me. I can't, well, you have this voice or that voice or what range and blah blah blah. I just think I sound like me. And who do you write like? Me. And I think that's do I think that interviewers asking those questions are unhealthy questions for writers? No, but I don't think they're interesting questions for writers. I don't think that, I mean, I'd rather ask a writer something more off the wall to get to know who they are inside and what makes them tick. And then that way I may understand how they write and what they write and where they're getting all of these ideas from, because they decide they love to wear a cowboy hat instead of a derby hat. Right? I mean, yeah, that to me is much more interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll have, because of the nature of what I do, and people know I've been around for a while, and somebody will start a conversation with me. It's usually a younger guy on social media. "How old are you?" And I'm like, first off, my age is the least interesting thing about me. Whether I'm 50 or 80, it doesn't matter. It's the
Yes.
least interesting thing about me. And I think that sometimes not all interviewers, but they get a little lazy because they have to churn out lots and lots of interviews. And maybe they think that these particular answers are what readers want to hear. Okay, maybe ask a few more of the stock questions, but then let's
Dive
delve
in.
down, because then you'll have people when they're interviewed come out with these answers that you're like, oh, they're just messing with that
Yeah,
interviewer.
yeah.
They're totally messing with them. And I kind of I kind of like that, honestly.
So you raised some things there that I was, like, thinking about. So, one of the things we just to kinda go back, like, I love The Lost Generation, which is the 1920s in Paris and all that. That's sort of, like, my favorite period of art, because I think
Mm,
that was, like, because you had painters, writers, sculptors, you had entertainment, all that in that genre there. But, am I influenced by them? Sort of. Am I right like them? No. They have a completely, a completely different way of writing than I do. Um, so just to kind of go back, like those rewrites is more of my authentic self, and it could be a better story coming out of there. That's what I believe. If it's true, that's fine, and that's because of how I see the world today.
if it's true for you, then it's true.
Yeah. So I don't think it's like me diminishing my early work. It's just me. It's like I paint. So one of the things I do is sometimes I repainted a canvas one time, and because I didn't like the way it was laid out, and I repainted something completely different. And back, I didn't know that was popular because I was a new like starting paint. Like I didn't know that in the past. Like if you go back to history, they always repainted their paintings because they had canvas was very sparing, all that kinda stuff, so that was thing.
Mhm.
But the other thing that I think is important to know, so there's always rewrites or there's always rework, but one of the things back to my early books, I was writing for my family and to my friends, kinda like being protective, like I was protecting myself, so I was playing small in the box,
Mm.
and, like, so I that analogy, we come back to that little box. So I wasn't going taking a risk. So I was trying to protect. I was trying to like, okay, just don't like, let's not say that. Let's not say this. Now it's open. The box is open. So I'm not writing like my social media content is not for my family or friends. That's not the audience that I'm talking to. I'm talking to the audience that resonates with me. I resonate with them. And that's why I keep telling keep speaking your truth. Keep speaking with what you have inside because, being vulnerable or being whatever, no, just be you. Don't try to be more than just that. And so when I do my little videos about the single father, the divorce and all that, they're they're kind of canned speaks, but they're pretty truthful. 'Cause I don't wanna get too specific, it's not about blaming another person, not blaming about this, it's just me being truthful to myself that there was issues that I created, that there was certain things that I did, that I could have been a better person in certain situations. Could have been a better father? Absolutely. Could I done less of the arguing and more of this? Absolutely. Because every time you do an energy of any kind, it's always gonna be directed towards that if you focus on it, right? So the more you
Mhm.
focus on it, you're gonna drive.
Mhm.
And I think
Mhm.
that's where writing becomes more of where is your focus? Where are you? Because if you look at my history, like, okay, those are fluff books. Those are not really authentic and all that. But where was my focus in those writings? They weren't really about John. It was really about pleasing other people. And when you start
Mm.
writing for yourself and you start putting things that are very authentic and very real, I think that our society is very hungry. I mean, because we have a lot of reality TV shows, we have a lot of this fluff in our lives, and we have all this stuff that people really want authentic, real people. like
But
real
I will
stories.
interject here is that reality TV is not reality in
No, no,
general.
that's what I
I mean,
mean.
I did a pilot for a reality series and it was
Yeah,
you you know, interviewed, say that. I liked what you said there. Make sure you say that, put you in this situation. I mean, I've done a copious amount of research and talked to a lot of people who've done reality and they're like, yeah, we're told situation, what to say, who to pick a fight with, you know,
right.
who to stab in the all of that. So,
Well, that's what I mean. It's not authentic. When you look
mm-mm.
at it, it's not authentic. Those are not. That's not the truth of what people are about, and because it's made for TV and or for movies. So that's what I'm saying is like I think people are hungry for truth. They're hungry for a higher level, and they're searching it.
Relatability.
Relatability.
People want to know someone else has experienced what they've experienced, some that you're not out there on your own, that you're not dealing in a great way and in a not great way. You're not dealing with this as an, you know, an island unto yourself that
Right.
someone else, even if it's one person, has experienced, seen, done what you have. And it makes you it helps you feel seen and not alone.
Right.
We are in an era with more television, more streaming, more options to be on a screen, and we are lonelier than ever across the world.
Well, I have to agree with that. I mean, there's no. Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I understand that.
Maybe it's because of those screens. Maybe it's because it's just one on one. You know, I'm just looking at a screen, or but a few people do gather to watch a screen. But yeah, we're just really lonely people.
Yeah, looking for connections outside the like, I guess connections are easy behind a screen than it is in person.
You can be
Um,
anybody you want. You can
yeah.
be anyone you want. You can project any person you want to project, and you don't have to be authentic. You don't have to be genuine. You can just create this, you know, well, pseudonym in terms of a name, but you can create this mask and be that.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
who you create, you think is so much better than who you really, really are.
Well, that's why I started decided to do these videos because I want people to see me as a different because I don't wanna be hiding behind a name. I
Mm,
wanted people to be understand that I'm more than just my words, that there is
mm.
action behind them, but more importantly, that, I also wanna create, some content that helps people because people are more some people might be visual, some people might be, reading, and I love Substack because it gives you all those options. And you're right, when you look at the community, you can pick the community you wanna be in. Now, we're in literature, most of us,
Mhm.
but even in that community, that's why I'm open to restacking people, promoting
Yeah.
people, all that stuff, because at the end of the day, it's not helping me, it's just helping the community. And my reader might be completely different than your reader. Like, they may resonate with you more than they resonate with me. And it's not affecting me. I'm gonna lose that person regardless down the road because they might get tired of how I write, or they might find something it's offensive. Okay, that's fine. It's up to you, whatever,
Silly. I
you
hear
know.
writers who've got hundreds of thousands of followers have been, what they say, bold enough to speak their mind, and they'll even say, "I posted this and I lost 1,000 subscribers." I'm like,
Yeah, it happens.
"Oh, well, but you are still speaking, you know, you're still saying what you need to say, how you need to say it, and when you need to say it." And that's talking about authenticity and being genuine. That's the most authentic and genuine thing you can do.
Right,
And not fear that when we write for everyone, we write for no one. If we're trying, y-
exactly.
there could be one thing that you say, one word that offends someone. You're not going to take that word out.
Right.
because one person decided that particular word offended them. You're not going to do it because then you will be editing and re-editing. Every time someone says, I didn't like that you said that, or that word, or that sentence bothered me, offended me, triggered me.
Oh, I have prime example. So I was, as you know, I write, collaborating, and I was collaborating with this one person.
I see
And I,
hearts. That's so sweet. Margaret, thank
oh,
you.
thank
That
you.
was so sweet.
Life smile too. Thank
All
you.
right. And we're just sitting here having a chat, chat,
Yeah,
chat. And I see people, we see you. We really see you. We're so happy you're here.
thank
And,
you.
are really grateful that you're wanting that we have anything to say that might be of any value at all, because sometimes we're just screaming into the void.
And if you have a question, please feel free to ask.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the one I was like working with somebody, and I was writing their story, talking about rewriting, and it was like gonna be posted in about a month or so, scheduled to post, and it was a female, and she was victimized and all that, uh, and just her story is sad to begin with, but there was a lot of truth in there that I wanted people to read about because it was a good story to
Mm,
be told, because there's a lot of other people out there that coulda resonate with that person.
hmm.
But she would come back and she would like, I don't like how this word is said, so I would rephrase it. So I would edit, and I would then came back, "Well, I don't like how you said this. Can you change that?" It was like this back and forth, and I was like, "Why am I dealing with somebody who's not ready for that story?"
And the moment you compromise what you're writing for someone else is the moment you dilute what other people are reading and getting something from.
Right,
Uh, I know a screenwriter who, he's fabulous. He's really fabulous. And in the beginning, he was hiring more people to read his scripts, and he was changing them and changing them and changing them. Even though he'd put them into competition, he'd be a quarterfinalist, a semifinalist, a finalist, but all these people who were supposedly more in the know of how to get him to sell his screenplay. I said, what version is really yours?
right.
What version is not yours and this manager, or yours and this editor, or yours and this well-meaning friend?
Mhm.
What version when do you I call it, I lock it. I lock my story, I lock my poem, I would lock my TV series episodes. It's locked. And even with TV though, sometimes the actor would come up with something, I go, "I like that," and I'm cool with that. But at what point do you say, "This is my writing, you write exactly the way you want, and I honor and respect that, and you say things exactly the way you want to say them. This is exactly the way I want to say this."
Right. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, you can have like, I've had some edits where someone would say, "That didn't really I need this tweak because that's not truthful. This is more factual." Then that mattered. That's a content that would
Of
matter.
course, facts
But
absolutely
if you're
matter.
gonna rewrite the whole paragraph because you're not happy how it sounds, then we're gonna have to disagree to agree. And I remember I just said, "I think it'd be best for us just to move past this, and you go your way, I go away, and I wish you well." And sometimes, and I've only done that twice in this situation, um, and, that's not what I want, but it definitely is not what I wanna deal with. I don't want this back
No,
and
no,
forth
there's
of
so many other things
yeah,
to deal with as a writer. Have, many, many, many writers have other jobs, other
right.
gigs. And I'm not saying their writing is a huge part of who they are, but they also have to, like you said, put food on the table, put a roof over your head, and all of that. So spending time editing your writing to please other people, that becomes a vicious cycle. It really, really
Yeah,
does.
so when I do collaborations, I don't really edit as much as, people do. It's usually a final cut and that's it.
I had no problem, nothing, 0 issues with anything you said. You quoted me to a T, and I
Right.
can't say that's happened to me in every article that's been written about me that I have been quoted correctly. And I still had no recourse. And these
Yeah.
writers did not care. You misquoted me. Oh well. You took it out of context. Oh well. And I just moved on. I moved on, and
Well, that
I-
if
I'm
it did,
very,
yeah, but if I
very discerning about who
yeah,
interviews me.
if that would have happened, I would have fixed it. I would have fixed it
Yes, because
because it was
you're not unwilling to work with someone where that's
well,
concerned.
because I'm also writing about a biography per se of someone else, and I wanna kinda make it, that. Now, if I'm writing a story that is more like, remember the story that I wrote about, Jack and Jill?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's coming
Yeah.
up. That's gonna come up. So that's a teaser for some people. That is something that I was in my writings for almost 30 years.
Oh,
That's
wow.
been around for 30 years, and, that's something that is something I created out of my imagination, and the way I came about it, it was like it was but the so it's a teaser for everybody, and I'm not gonna spoil the content because you gotta read it, but that's where that story, I'm not gonna change the content or the theme. I would make some edits to make it stronger so it has a little more of a, like, "Wow, I didn't expect that because when your response was, "I didn't expect that."
Right?
That's what I was going for.
That's a great response, and sometimes I didn't expect that, and I'm not sure, and sometimes I didn't expect that, and
Yeah,
woo, you went
yeah.
someplace I was not expecting you to go, and I think I didn't expect that was a positive for you, I think. I hope.
Oh. Oh, well, it is what it is, but I wrote it because that was one of the things, but I think when you're writing for yourself, I think that's the most important part, and that's where if anybody who's out there listening, that's one of the things I would always say is write for yourself because I went through many stages of writing, and I think I've kind of found my rhythm, I would say. I'm sure I'm gonna grow more because of it,
Mhm.
but I'm okay where I'm at right now because I enjoy writing, I do this, and then the other thing I think most people need to understand is, like, some writers out there feel like they've, like, hit a wall,
Mm,
and that's why I kinda do those daily thoughts, those little small little s it helps me to continue to write, not even though it's small and simple, it allows me to still be creative in a different way, um So, those are kinda like things that I can teach those are things where just I learned along the process. I didn't No one taught me those
mhm.
because, well, they kinda teach you, like, you keep writing regardless of the situation. You're always gonna bring a book, always write, 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 and sometimes you don't have that luxury, so you put it on your phone or text it to yourself or email yourself, so you have something there, and that's where I think and those sometimes they end up in a story, sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
Or I might pull something out of the story and because there's a great quote or great things. But I think when you're writing, you really gotta stay true to yourself, but also keep writing as you write. Because if you stop writing, you're gonna hit those blocks because, like, for example, when I stopped writing on Substack for a couple months, it it was a painstaking starting back up because it was a practice. Because
Yeah, that's true. You got out of the rhythm.
got out of the rhythm, you stop writing, and all of a sudden you're struggling for words, you're struggling for how this is gonna like, you're struggling with ideas. It started to become a challenge, and once I got back in the rhythm, it was a different story, and it was like, "Oh, okay, this is where we need to go." So, yeah.
Yeah, and talking about writing for yourself, I know there, are probably some gig writers out there, and I've been a gig writer myself, I wrote for Organic Wine Magazine and for other magazines, and, hopefully you can put some of your voice in there, but ultimately you've been hired to do a job, and the publisher editor wants it to look and sound a certain way and have certain information. But ultimately, in your personal writing, and maybe in your gig writing, they may love your voice so much and the way you say things, you're able to just use your voice. It's not just information. I 100% agree. The moment I stepped into that, after having written television for someone else's voice, and that it is the most fulfilling. The journey is finding what that voice really is in the big picture. A friend of mine, we were together in New York City a few weeks ago, and we were sitting having matcha and sushi because we both love that. And he said, you know, what it comes down to is signal versus noise. So, what is your signal that is not a part of the noise? Your unique signal, your unique voice that is, the cream rising to the top, the wheat from the chaff, because there is so much duplication. There's so much noise out there. People hoping that they will really hit it as an influencer or go viral, whether it's with their writing or with their videos or whatever, with a lot of duplication and a lot of trying to replicate other people's success when
Oh,
a,
yeah.
a
Yeah, yeah.
lot of times your originality, your signal will um, be heard outside the noise, but you have to stick with it. You can't just try it a few times and give up. You have to understand it's a process. I keep getting messages. Understand it's a process and understand it takes a while for people to find you.
Yes.
And then it takes a while for the people to find you who really like or love you. And you really have to have a lot of determination and dedication and motivation to doing that
Mm.
and be that signal.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I really love working with younger people a lot. They come to me with a lot of their own wisdom. I mean, it's pretty crazy how I mean, it's not crazy. I don't. It's not a demeaning thing at all. I'm in awe of you that you have at such a young age achieved um,
Mm.
so much wisdom, and I think that's an art in itself because
Yeah.
they're listening and hearing. But yeah, talking to me. Okay, this isn't working. That's not working. And I gave this up and gave that up. I said, There's a lot of competition out there." When I started at a young age, I mean, there were what? Several billion less people on the planet, and social media did not exist.
Yes.
So you had to go about in different ways to be seen and be heard, but your unique voice, your individual voice was easier to get out there just in those parameters.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like you look at writing today, like I don't consider myself as um, an expert writer. I'm more of an amateur writer, more or less. That's how I look at myself. But I'm new to it, like maybe 4 or 5 years into it per se. Um, but I think when you look at I read a lot of content. I read a lot of people's stories, and I do
Mhm,
restack them and all that.
mhm,
Um, there's some really good writers out there, and there's some not strong writers. I would say that, and they're learning to come over, overcome their challenges. And I could read who's struggling and who hasn't really helped craft their stories. Like, I mean, you get to read so much, you learn. But there's some I picked I found this one writer, she's young, I think she's from Holland,
mm,
and she's funny, charming, and her writing is so light and easy and so reflective. Like you're saying, some of these kids have some major wisdom, and she's really funny. and just a good, funny, good-hearted person, and that's the type of reader that I'm looking for, because really that's what my content's about. It's that wholesome, good writing. It's not yeah, they're a little bit a little bit issues, but it's usually tilted in a way that there's some type of solution or there's some type of way out or there's some answers to that issue. And that's who I really resonate to people more and more is people like
Mm.
that. Because
Well,
it's,
she sounds like she's gifted, and that's the thing. There are some writers I've come across that think writing is just easy peasy. It's just I put down any words that come to my brain in an order, just express myself, whatever I'm going through, and now I'm a professional writer. And I know that I know I feel, maybe I don't know that there's still dues to be paid
yeah,
in as a writer.
yeah,
Just like there's still dues to be paid as an actor, singer, dancer, classes, study. I have mentors and I have teachers, and I've been at this a really long time, but there's always someone who knows more than I do that can open more uh, doors of comprehension for me, help me be a better writer. Um, but a lot of times because people see that, you know, YouTubers have a million followers and they're monetized and TikTok and Instagram and I want to be, you know, famous and an influencer and go viral because it looks so easy. And there are a lot of people that it just happened, and a lot of people who bust their butt for those things to happen. It's a formula. It's more formulaic. They have worked out a system to become that overnight
yeah.
success or influence or that have that virality.
But I'm not looking to like, when I do my content, I'm not looking to impress anybody. In fact, I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be nice to get some views and some likes and all that because it kinda, like, validates your work, you know? But I do notice, though, when I do the small little videos on TikTok, I get a lot more hits on those than I do on anything else.
TikTok, yeah, I was on TikTok. I'm not
And
on it anymore, but I mean, it's all about
yeah,
the visual.
but even on, YouTube, I'm getting more and more of those videos because and I don't blast it on Substack because I kinda just I just I just put it on like, it is through, um, my podcast, but it's just more or less just posting it, and I let it naturally grow on its own,
Let
and
people
I'm
click and go.
yeah, and I kinda do those videos more of like a promotional type thing for the book as I'm trying to do
Yeah.
that because I'm trying to
Mhm.
promote the book.
Mhm.
So as you so here like, I think I'm a better promoter than a better writer. That's how I look at it. I know how to take a story and really move it.
Oh, I
I'm
see. Okay. All right.
like, I know how to, like, because 'cause I've been in it for a while and I've done a couple promotions and I'm learning how the process. Like, so I've been generating small little videos to promote the book. So that's the thing about Substack. It can allow you to do multiple things, but like, if you're on Twitter, you're basically like, Twitter is hard as it is. Like, there's a couple g you
It
were talking about
is.
yeah, there's a couple genres there that there's a couple subjects I will not do on Substack. Number 1, religion. Like, I'll touch on it, but I'm not diving in preaching religion. Politics? No. That is my safe haven. You're not gonna do that there. Like, we'll go like, I don't wanna do even on TikTok, I don't do that. But,
That's a quagmire.
no, it's just people chase down the and talking about noise, that is noise. If we're talking about noise, that's noise. That's not signal, that's noise. Because it's just a distraction from if you are a writer and you're following those like I fell in those traps. If you're following that, you're going like chasing for for content. You're chasing all that kind of stuff for hits. That's noise. But when you start well, the reason why I say those videos are starting to get some traction is because I'm focusing on myself, and I don't care what the rhythm is saying, or the algorithms and all that, or the formula. I'm not playing that game. I'm just putting it out there and being natural and seeing it land. And I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm doing it for myself. I'm actually doing this for my kids. I'm kind of like I'm thinking about them when I put them. So when they go back
Mhm.
and they say, "What was dad like?" Well, here's his videos. This is his memories. This is the things like that. And it's really preserving myself versus trying to because going back to the divorce, my ex was trying to erase me. I'm trying to keep myself alive. And this is really my biggest why. If
Mm.
that makes sense.
Mm.
My
Yeah.
biggest why is I'm writing not just for my legacy, but an opportunity for my children to rediscover their dad in a way they have never done before without any influence.
They'll be so happy, I would imagine, as time goes on to have that piece of you because I have very little information about either of my parents, in terms of their history and, where they come from. I've had to piece it together from my research and of the 1 or 2 people of my entire lineage directly that are still
Yeah.
alive, and one person is my 90-year-old cousin, and, she's been able to give me some information about, where I came from, what my heritage is, what my lineage is, and I'm really pleased, very, very pleased about that. The only other thing I have to tell you is that I'm my battery's dying on my
It's
phone.
okay. That's all right. Fair enough.
I'm sorry, no, this has been just so great, and,
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for the people that are here with us
Yes.
now, and, so we can find you on TikTok, on Substack, on YouTube. Do you do Instagram?
Yeah, but I usually stick with, Facebook.
Twitter?
Yeah,
Facebook?
Facebook.
I'm sorry, X, Twitter, X.
I'm Substack is my home base.
Is it
Some
all J Rinaldo on everything, or is it different things?
different things, but, my home base is Substack.
Substack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm KaZ in the world all over the world, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on, Substack. I love Substack. I'm telling you, like I said, I've been there 2.5 months, and it's not the Wild West out there. It's kinder and gentler, and, I still am not figuring. I'm not. I've released trying to figure people and things out. I'm just letting it inform me. Let it come to me, and let it inform me instead of trying to mold it to my will, bend it to my will. I met 2 women recently on a private, not a private. I mean, their interviews on YouTube, but they both said, given the genre of what they do, one of them just started talking on Instagram. Now, the subject is quite interesting. She's called That Glasgow Witch. And the other one did the same thing on TikTok. She's a Celtic shaman.
Yeah.
And they just put it out there. And they've done great guns. And they did not have a plan. They just talked to the camera. And it is just resonating with so many people that true transparency, that true where I think the advent of doing things outrageous and doing um things that are profane, or doing things that are so like jump cuts, and
Yeah.
so like let me I think that we are transitioning a lot, not completely. I know quite a few people are still using the outrageous and what they consider to be hilarious, and a lot of other people do too, to keep them in the public eye. But I do hear from a lot of people that are just doing what we just did. Like 2 people talking about 3 subjects enjoying the heck out of each other and hoping that anybody who watched got even an infinitesimal thing from it.
Yeah.
And
It'd
I
be
know
amazing.
people think that, good. I mean, if
Yeah.
I'm in the healing arts.
Yeah.
My writing is a part of the healing arts. I do healing writing, whether it's poetry or exercises or whatever. And that's my
Now I
mission
know
to
why
be
we
of
reson
service.
now I know why we really truly resonate.
Do tell.
You just said healing, mine's inspiring. So in that connection of why we resonate is that I write to inspire people, you write to heal people, which is similar in some fashion because healing is to inspire.
And
Inspire
inspiration
is
heals. So
heals.
we've got both of the inverse.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the
And that's
universe
an
was
aha
just
moment for me right now. I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
I love it. See, don't you love that? I
Yeah.
love aha moments for myself. And I love anyone saying, "Oh my gosh, that was just such an aha moment for me," just what you said. And sometimes it comes from out there, it comes through here as a conduit, and it comes out here. And
Yeah.
if anyone gets anything from it, I'm very grateful.
Well,
With
Kaz,
them.
you are I think I have your book back here.
Is it the meditation book? Yeah?
Is that Yeah.
Oh, you can drink nature. This is my poetry because I've worked with wild animals and domesticated animals since I was a child, both professionally and as a volunteer, and in my own home. I've had a slew of animals. That is poetry based on nature. And then I have Sing Song Crows and Alphabet Soup, which is poetry based on life. And this is
Okay.
the one where if you read this, you know what the hell I've been through. And then the other one is brain hug meditation because I think meditation does hug the brain. I know it does. It can change the brain. But this is exercises and stories and poetry on
Oh, awesome.
meditation. So, and my next book is due imminently. So I gotta, you
Work
know,
on it.
I'm working on it. Every day it's just bits and bobs, but it,
Right.
it always comes around. So,
Good. No,
yeah.
this has been a delight. I'm really grateful
And
for
everybody
this
needs to
opportunity.
go and look you up on Amazon. That's how I found out exactly what you've written. And it's I mean, that's how we found out we both lived in Vancouver.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Because
miss
you
it. I
said
love
you
it. It's
yeah.
beautiful. It's as expensive as Switzerland now, but it's absolutely gorgeous.
I
BC
could
has
tell you
everything.
I could tell you stories about that place. But they're in my Rediscovering
Next
Vancouver.
time.
No, but
Next
they're in my
time.
book, in my Rediscovering Vancouver.
Oh,
No,
well, there
just
you go. Buy his Rediscover Vancouver if you have any curiosity about it. But yeah, I'm sure you and I are so effusive. We have to do
Yes.
this again.
Yes. Yes, we have I was just thinking about that, honestly. I was like, "Wow, this is we should really try to do this again."
I knew it. I'm psychic. No,
You're
I'm just
healing.
intuitive.
You're healing, I'm inspiring. I get
Oh,
it.
this has been so much fun. I hope anybody who's been with us from beginning to or came in the middle or the end, I hope you had fun too because I've
Yeah.
had a blast.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Alright, take care.
All right, you be well. Thanks
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
See
Thank you.
ya.
Alright,
See ya.
bye-bye, everybody. Bye.